So good morning everyone. We are going to start with our unit 2, chapter 4, that is relational database model. And the topics which we are going to cover here is what is a logical view of relational database, what are keys, what are integrity rules. When we talk about relational database design, what are the features which are a good relational database design, what is atomic domain and normalization. So let's begin. So first, we should know that what do you mean by relational database. So whenever I talk about relational database, it is something that will contains rows and columns, which is also referred as tuples and records, and the columns are also referred as fields and attributes. So in relational database, basically you are creating a relation between two or more tables, and whenever you get the resultant output, that is the combination of both the tables which are in relation with each other. So in relational database, your attributes plays a very important role because using those attributes, you're going to combine them and you're going to get the resultant table. So when I talk about relational database, here the tables which will be visualized as a matrix of rows and columns, and there will be intersections of a row and column that will contain specific value. So when we talk about word relation, here refers to a relationship between two or more tables that will share some same fields. So when I talk about sharing some same fields, here refers to your primary key and foreign key. That is one table primary key. When moves to another table, it becomes the foreign key. So that is a relation with that two tables are connected with each other. So important point here is that relational database was proposed by E.F. Codd in the year 1970, and its main intention was that the tables can be able to join each other, or the tables can be connect with each other with some common attributes between the two. Next, we have a logical view of relational database. So over your screens, you can see that whenever we talk about relational database, it is combining the queries from two tables and it is giving you the output together. So in the relational database, you are storing, or you can say you are representing your data specifically in tables form only, where your relational database will consist collection of tables that stores, you can say, interrelated data, and every table is made up of rows and columns, and each table will have one or more columns, where each column will be assigned some attribute value that uniquely defines that column. So whenever we talk about table in relational database, it needs to have some important characteristics. Okay, the very first, each row should contain only one value for each column. Second, each value for a given value should be of same type. Like if I'm defining the data type as integer, so the value which will be stored into my columns should be of type integer only. It cannot be of any other type. So that is your logical view of your database. Next, we have characteristics of relational database model. So the very first characteristic is it provides data to be stored in tables in systematic way. So as we know, as per the Codd's 12 rule, it says all the data which is there, it should be stored in tables form only, and that table should be represented in the form of rows and columns. That is the second characteristic, which says that the persist data will be in a form of rows and columns only. Third, it provides facility of primary key to uniquely identify the records. So as I've already told you before, that when I talk about relational database, when you are thinking of creating a relation between two or more tables, you need to have some common attributes. So with the help of primary key and foreign key relationship, we usually combine two tables and we create a relationship between them. So whenever you have a primary key, that will uniquely identify all the records in the table. Next, provides a virtual table creation in which sensitive data can be stored and simplified the query using views. So if you want to have views, that can be done with the help of relational database. So when we talk about views, that is nothing but a virtual table, and using that virtual table, you can create different views as per the user. As we have already seen in the very first lecture, that we can create user specific views, wherein one user can see few set of values, where other user can see another few set of value. So as per your condition, you can create multiple views, and according to that views, the user can see only those views which you have defined while creating the views. Next, sharing a common column in two or more tables. So as we already know that relational databases uses primary key and foreign key concept, wherein a common column is shared between these two tables. Where one primary key moves to the another table, it becomes a foreign key. Next, in relational database, it eliminates the data redundancy. So when we talk about data redundancy, it refers to there is lot of repeated columns into your databases. There will be missing values, incomplete values. So with the help of normalization, you are going to solve this. In the next topic ahead, we are going to understand that what is normalization. Next, constraining inputs. So with the help of relational databases, you can define different types of constraints, like the constraints which we know that not null constraint, primary key constraint, domain constraint. So these are the different types of constraints which can be put over your columns, and it will make sure that whatever constraints you have defined, accordingly that type of data will only be stored, nothing else will be stored. Okay. Next, ensures data integrity. It's obvious because you are using a primary key here. So it will make sure that there will be data integrity. There will be no repeated values. All the data which is stored into your relational databases will be unique values. Last, portability. So when I talk about portability, it refers to that you will be able to share your data across different platforms. So that is portable with the help of relational data model. So it is portable. You can share across different platforms as well. Next, we have types of keys. Okay. So in relational database, keys are very much important because they will help you to identify, they will help you to make relations. So the key plays a very important role in relational databases. So what do you mean by key? So whenever I talk about key, you can say it is a single, or you can say combination of multiple fields in a table. So with the help of the keys, you can fetch, you can retrieve the records or data rows from the data table using some condition, or you can say any kind of requirement is to be fulfilled. Keys at times are also used to create relationship among the different database tables or views. That is nothing but your primary key and foreign key. Okay. So we'll take an example here. Here we have an employee table and we have a salary table. So in the employee table, I have fields employee ID, employee name, address, license number, passport number. Similarly, in salary table, which is my table 2, I have a fields like employee ID, salary month and year, and amount. So now we are going to see what are the types of keys, and with this table, what is the example of the types of keys here. So first we are going to start with primary key. Okay. So whenever I talk about primary key, it is something which will identify your every record uniquely in the table. The important point is that primary key will never allow you null value in the column, and it will make sure that all the values which is there into your table will be the unique values. Okay. So in this example, where we are considering employee table, employee ID is a primary key because that is a unique data that will be identify all the records. That is your employee name, address, your license number and passport number, and all these records will be dependent on the employee ID, which is your primary key here. Next, we are moving to the second, that is a candidate key. Okay. So when I talk about candidate key, it is also referred as composite key at times. So when I talk about candidate key, it is a key which is a key of the table which can be selected as a primary key of the table. However, at times you can also have multiple candidate keys out of which you can select any one of them as a primary key. So here in this example, we already have employee as a primary key. But apart from employee, if I think of making a primary key, that can be my license number and passport number, because license number and passport number are two fields which are going to be unique to every employee. No two people will have same license number or no same passport number. So candidate key here refers to what? You already have a primary key into your tables, but if you want to consider something else also as a part of your primary key, then you can have license number and the passport number. So this can be also act as your candidate key, or you can say a supporting primary key for the table. Next we have unique key. So when I talk about unique key, it is somewhere similar to your primary key. It also doesn't allow duplicate values. But one difference between your primary key and unique key is that unique key allows at least one null value. Wherein if I talk about primary key, it will not allow any null value. Okay. So in unique key, if you are defining any data or you can say any column, then you can have at least one null value. Okay. So here in this example, we can have a license number and passport number as unique key. So you can define them as a unique key, and if you want, then you can keep one value null, because as an employee, there is a possibility that somebody may have a license number, somebody may have a passport number. There is a possibility any of them will have, there will be very less possibility that most of them will have both of them. Okay, but in case if you have a data where there is one is present and another is absent, in that case you can go with unique key because it allows one null value. Next we have our alternate key. So when I talk about alternate key, it is also like a candidate key which is currently not selected as a primary key of the table. So the example remains the same here. That is your license number and passport number are your alternate keys. So it is somewhat same like your candidate key only. So candidate key and alternate key are somewhere one and the same. Next we have foreign key. So when I talk about foreign key, it is creating a relationship between two tables. As we know the definition, one table primary key, when it moves to another table, it becomes the foreign key. So here in this example, employee ID of employee table is a primary key, and when it's moved to the salary table, it becomes the foreign key. So the important point is there that whatever values are stored into your primary key tables with respect to ID values, that same values have to be reflected in your foreign key table as well. So that is your foreign key. Next, we are moving to composite key. So when I talk about composite key, that refers to the group of two or more columns that can uniquely identify each record of the table. So here in this example, we have taken employee ID and salary month year as an of composite key, which together can uniquely identify the salary table. So here we can say that if we see logically employee ID or salary month year column, if they are working independently, then they cannot have a unique values or they cannot identify the unique values. But if we create a composite key between these two tables, they together can be the part of the composite key. Next, we are coming to the key, super key. Okay, so when I talk about super key, it is a set of columns on which all the columns of the data are functionally dependent. So it is a set of columns that uniquely identifies each row in the table. So here in this example, when we talk about super key, the employee ID or your primary key plays a super key role here. Okay, because that is only the column into your tables which will uniquely identify all the records. Apart from that, this key, there are no other columns which will uniquely identify the records. Okay, so I always remember whenever we talk about super key, it is a primary key column which will be uniquely identify all the records, and all the columns are dependent on the primary key to uniquely identify the records. Let's move to next. Next, we are moving to integrity rules. So first we should understand that what do you mean by integrity. So here we are referring to data integrity for relational databases, and which can be defined in very simple words. The data has to be complete, it has to be accurate, and it has to be consistent. So data integrity in short is a set of rules which will make sure that whatever data is stored into your databases will have a quality of information. It will have information which is not null, which will have complete information. This will make sure that all the columns are present correctly into your databases or into your tables. So when I talk about few characteristics of your integrity rules, we can tell it as this will help you to have stability over your databases. It will make sure that all the columns are maintained properly. There are no incomplete values. There are no missing values. That all will be make sure with the help of your integrity rules. So mostly when we talk about data integrity, it is always enforced into your database system with the help of the integrity constraints or rules which are present there. So this integrity constraints are checked, or it will ensure that the time of data insertion or the time of updation or anything wherever you are performing any sort of operation, the data integrity should not be affected. That means the data which is stored should not be affected in any way. So basically, in just one word, I can say that integrity rules or integrity constraint will help you to guard against the damage to your databases. It will make sure that the data which is stored into your databases will not be affected with anything, and your all the data which is stored will be a complete data, accurate data, and consistent data. So when I talk about integrity constraint, it is divided into three. The very first we are going to start with is entity integrity. So when I talk about entity integrity, it is somewhere you can say the concept of primary key. So this integrity states that the primary key value cannot be null, because the primary key value is only the one value which uniquely identify the individual records in the relation, and if that key has a null value, then we cannot identify those rows. So the table cannot contain a null value other than the primary key field. Okay, so here in this example we have an employee table which has fields employee ID, employee name, and employee salary. So we have seen that in the last record, the employee name Jackson with the salary 27,000 doesn't has employee ID. So as we all know, the primary key definition that it says it cannot contain null value, that same applies here as well. So if you are defining any column, it should not contain any null value. So that is your entity integrity. So your every entity which is stored into your table will make sure will have a primary key value. So with this, if it is having a primary key value, you can uniquely identify the records and the entity integrity will be maintained. Next, we have referential integrity. Okay, so whenever you come across the word referential, you should always think the word referential refers to references. So whenever we talk about word references, that is nothing but the concept of foreign key. So when we talk about referential integrity constraint, it is specified between two or more tables depending on how many tables you have. So here in the referential integrity, there will be one foreign key table which will be always corresponding, or you can say referring to the primary key table or the value. So here, whatever is primary key table, it should not contain null values, as well as the references which is taken by a foreign key table that should not also contain the null value. So both of them should store same value, and using that same value, they are going to identify each other. Okay. So here in this example, we have an employee data which has fields employee name, employee ID, age, and D number. So D number of employee table is a foreign key, and it has its original table, that is department table. Okay. So here in this, you can see we are creating a relation between the department table of department table and D number which is from the employee table. So you can see 11, 24, and 13. These are the records which are present in my original department table with the column name D number. But if I talk about the department number 18, which is not present in my original department table, then which will be not considered as a foreign key. So whenever you are having referential integrity, whenever you are creating references between two tables, you have to make sure that whatever values are there into your primary key table, that same value should be seen into your foreign key table, because they are taking a reference. Your foreign key is taking a reference from the primary key table. So both of them should contain same set of values. If there is any extra value, that will not be included as an output. Okay. So referential integrity says that you are creating a reference of your foreign key and primary key, and all the values which are present in the primary key table, same values have to be present into your foreign key tables. Next, we have third, that is your domain integrity. So when I talk about domain integrity, it specifies that all the columns in the relational table should be declared upon a defined domain. So whatever domain you have defined at the time of creation of table, that same domain value it should represent. So domain constraints can be defined as having a valid set of values for an attribute. Like if you are defining a data type of varchar, so whenever you are inserting the values at that time, you have to make sure that the data type value, or you can say an attribute value, should be of type varchar only. So now in this example, you can see that if I talk about age, it has to be a numeric value, okay? But you are trying to store an value which is alphabetic, so which is not allowed because your age is an integer attribute. So whatever data type you have defined at the time of creation, or whatever domain values you have defined, it should contain only those values, okay? So here in this example, age is an integer attribute and it cannot contain alphabetic values. Next we have key constraint. The basic three integrity rules are your entity integrity, referential and domain integrity. But at times if you want, then you can always have a key constraint as well. So when I talk about key constraint, these are the keys which will help you to identify an entity within the entity set uniquely. However, your entity set can have multiple keys, like with the concept of your composite keys, you can have multiple keys. But mostly when we talk about key constraint, we are always dealing with primary key values, which will have only one value, and using that one value, you are uniquely identify the relation of the table. So here in this example, you can see that ID number 1002 is being repeated twice. In ID number 1002 is first assigned to Leonardo, and similarly second it is assigned to Morgan. So your primary key values should be unique across the table. There cannot be non-unique values. So here in this example, 1002 ID which is repeated is not being allowed, only for the reason that primary key can have only one value at a time. So this value is not allowed and which need to be eliminated. Next, we are going to the topic that is types of constraints. So whenever we talk about constraints are something that will enforce limits to your data or the type of data which you are performing operations, like you're inserting your data, updating your data, and deleting your data from a table. So when we talk about main purpose of constraints is to maintain the data integrity whenever you are performing any kind of operations into your table. Mostly the operations which we use into the table is always insert, update, and delete. These are the three operations which are commonly used. So when we talk about constraints, they can be at times column level constraints or it can be table level constraints. When we talk about column level constraints, they are applied to a column. And when we talk about table level constraints, they are applied to the whole table. So let us see what are the types of constraints. The very first type of constraint is not null. So whenever we talk about not null, it ensures that column cannot have null values. Second, we have unique. It ensures that all the values in the columns are different. That is nothing but unique. Third, primary key, a combination of not null and unique that will uniquely identify individual records or rows in the table. Next, foreign key uniquely identifies a row or record in the another table. So foreign key is nothing but creating a relationship with your primary key table. Next, we have check constraint, which will ensure that all the values in the column will satisfy the specific condition. So you will apply some check constraint where check can be your any attribute value, and while at the time of insertion, updation, or deletion, it will check the conditions. Last, default value. So whenever you want to set a default value for a column where no value is specified, then you can go with default constraint. So whatever default value will be set, that automatically that value will be assigned to all the rows of the table. Next, we are moving to normalization. So whenever we talk about normalization, this is a very important concept in the database. And by using this concept, you are going to organize your data into your databases. So basically, normalization is a process where you're going to decompose your tables to eliminate the data redundancy, which is nothing but repetition in very simple words, and undesirable characteristics like your insert, update, and deletion anomalies should also be removed. So in short, we can say normalization is a multi-step process which makes sure that the data is into the tabular form, and it will remove all the duplicate data from the relation tables. So when we talk about normalization, its main purpose is classified into two. The very first, it will help you to eliminate redundant data duplicate data, repeated data, or you can say useless data. And second, it will ensure that whatever data is stored into your databases, or if there is any kind of dependencies of your data, that will have some meaning, that the data which is stored is logically stored. So what are the problems without normalization? We are going to see here with an example, like is the three anomalies which we have. Okay, but in general, if the data table is not properly normalized and if the data has redundancy, then it will not only eat up the extra memory space, but will also make difficult for you to handle and update the databases. So the main purpose of normalization here is to minimize the redundancy and remove the insert, update, and delete anomalies. So this we are going to see now. So basically, it divides your larger tables into smaller tables, or you can say subtables, and then link them using the relationship. Again, the relationship here refers to your primary key relationship and foreign key relationship. And the data redundancy which is taking place with the same piece of data is held into two separate places. Okay, so we'll first analyze the types of anomalies. There are three types of anomalies, that is insertion, update, and deletion. So here these anomalies occur before applying your normalization. Like we have not applied any normalization of our databases. Before applying that, what are the anomalies? So the very first is your insert anomaly. So insert anomaly occurs when your attributes cannot be inserted into the databases without the presence of other attributes. So that is nothing but usually whenever a child records is inserted without a parent record. So here in this example, wherein we have a student table and we have a department table, you can see that Jerry is a new student with department ID 6, and there is no department with this department ID 6 in your department table. So this is an anomaly, that is nothing but a problem. And this usual behavior should be a new department ID with 6, and only then student can have it. Okay. So here in this example, you have a Jerry entry which has department ID 6, which is not present into your department table. So this is an anomaly, and this has occurred because your databases are not normalized. There is no primary key and foreign key relationship applied here. Because of that, some records are present into your student table and which are not reflected into your department table. Second, we have update anomaly. So when I talk about update anomaly, it refers to when duplicate data is updated at one instance and across all the instances where it was duplicated. So that is your update anomaly. So in simple words, we can say that we are changing existing information incorrectly is an update anomaly. So as per the example, you can see that we have English department which has department ID 8, but unfortunately the same was not reflected into your student table. So student table have department ID till 6 only, but in your department table you have an department ID 8 as well. So this is your update anomaly. Next we have delete anomaly. So when I talk about delete anomaly, it usually occurs when you delete a record that may contain attributes that shouldn't be deleted. Now let us say if someone decides to delete the department that is botany. So it may end up deleting all the students' data who had the department botany. So here we can say that deletion of some attributes will cause the deletion of other attribute as well. Because when I talk about botany department, it will have a student data also associated with it. So if since there is no primary key and foreign key relationship here, so if I delete this department, all the records of the student will also be deleted. Okay. So these anomalies, or you can say problems, are addressed by the concept of normalization, and the normalization will always make sure that all these three issues or any other possible issues which are there will be addressed at the time of designing. Next, we are going to go to the topic that is dependencies. Okay, so the most common dependency we are going to study here is functional dependency. So whenever I talk about functional dependency, it is a relationship that exists between two attributes, and it is typically exists between your primary key attributes and the non-primary key attributes within a table. So it is denoted as X is functionally dependent on Y, where the left side of your function dependency is called as determinant, and the right side of it is known as a dependent. Okay, So determinant is something which is going to be type weak because it is dependent on dependent, that is your strong entity, that is your primary key entity. So here in this, your Y is dependent, or you can say functionally dependent on X. So here we will take an example where we have an employee table with attributes employee ID, employee name, and employee address. So here we have an attribute which is an employee ID that can uniquely identify the employee name, attribute of employee table, because if we know the employee ID, then we can tell which employee name is associated with it. So we can write functional dependency as employee ID, which functionally dependent on employee name. But whenever you are going to read from right to left. Your employee name is functionally dependent on employee ID. So we can say that employee name is functionally dependent on employee ID. So that is your functional dependencies, where there will be a relationship between your primary key attributes and non-primary key attributes within the table. And there will be always a determinant and dependent. Determinant will be always on your left side, and the dependent will be always on the right side. So mostly the dependent will be your primary key attributes that will be uniquely identify all the records of the table. Next, we have types of functional dependency. So whenever I talk about types of functional dependency, it is categorized into two. First is trivial function dependency, and second is non-trivial function dependency. So first we are going to start with trivial functional dependency. So whenever we talk about trivial function dependency, let us say we have an attribute A and B. So A is functionally dependent on B if it has a trivially dependency in such a way that the B is a subset of A. So the following dependencies are also trivial, that is A is functionally dependent on A, that is itself. Similarly, B is functionally dependent on B, that is itself. So consider a table which has two tables, that is student ID and student name. So when I talk about student ID and student name, student ID is a trivial functional dependency as student ID is a subset of student ID as well as the student name. So this makes sense because if we know the student ID, then we can know the student name. So because the student ID is in a record, that will be uniquely identify all the records in the table. Similarly, when I talk about trivial dependency, your student ID is dependent on student ID because if you have a student ID present, then only you can make the functional dependency. Similarly, if you have a student name record present, then only you can have a student name dependency. So that is your trivial dependency, which says that if there are primary key attributes and non-primary key attributes, then they are trivially functionally dependent on each other if B is a subset of A, along with the dependency that is A is functionally dependent on itself, that is A, and B is functionally dependent on B, because they themselves should hold some values into them, then only they can be the part of trivial functional dependency. Next we have second, that is non-trivial functional dependency. So whenever I talk about non-trivial functional dependency, it is exactly opposite of trivial, which says that B is not subset of A. So let us consider an example that we have an employee table with three attributes, that is employee ID, employee name, and employee address. So whenever we are talking about functional dependency, which is of type non-trivial, here we are going to represent, or we can say that employee name is not a subset of employee ID, because if there is employee ID, then there is employee name. Employee name is not dependent on employee ID. Okay, sorry. Employee ID is not dependent on employee name, but employee name is dependent on employee ID. Similarly, employee address is not the subset of employee ID. So which means that employee address field is dependent on employee ID. Employee ID is not dependent on employee address. Okay. So which says that B is not subset of A. And basically when we talk about all the primary key attributes are something which are the strong entities, and all the attributes are always dependent on them. The reverse operation cannot be performed. In case if there is an A intersection B is null, then A functionally dependent on B is called as complete non-trivial. Third, we have transitive functional dependency. So functional dependency is said to be transitive if it is indirectly formed by two functional dependencies. Okay. So for example, we have X is functionally dependent on Z is said to be transitive dependency if it has three functional dependency conditions as true. First, X is functionally dependent on Y is not functionally dependent on X, and Y is functionally dependent on Z. So let's take this with an example. We have a table which is nothing but your author table, which has fields book, author name, and author age. So there are 3 entries here. So as per the 3 functional dependency condition that need to be true, we have first, that is your book and author. So your book and author is nothing but your book is referred as X and author is referred as Z. Okay, so X is book, Y is author, and Z is your author age. So in the first condition, what do we had? X is functionally dependent on Y. So here in this example, your X is book, which is functionally dependent on Y. So if we know the book, we know the author name. That is the very first condition which needs to be true and which is true here as well. Second, we have Y does not functionally dependent on X. So which says here Y is nothing but the author here. So author is does not dependent on book. Okay, which is very true. There can be many authors and there can be many books. So you cannot say that author will be always dependent on book only. Next, third, Y is functionally dependent on Z. So that is why here we have author and the Z is author age. So you can say author is functionally dependent on author age, because if there is author, then it's definitely going to have some age value associated with it. So here with this, as per the rule of transitivity, we can conclude that book and author age, if they are transitive, that is a third relationship. Okay, if they are there together, will make some sense, because if we know the book name, then we can know the author age. So transitive is always a third relationship which will be there, and here as per the rule of transitivity, the attributes which are there is your book and author age. Next, we are moving to the next dependency, that is partial dependency. So when we talk about partial dependency, it occurs when a non-prime attribute is functionally dependent on a part of candidate key. So candidate key is nothing but the 2 primary keys which are made one is called as candidate key. So here in this example, we have a student project which has field student ID, project number, student name, and project name. So here with this example, we can consider that the candidate key can be your student ID and project number, because these are the 2 records which are identifying your records uniquely of your student project table. So in the above table, we have a partial dependency. The prime key attributes are student ID and project number. So student ID is nothing which will uniquely identify the student record. Student name is nothing but the name of the student. Project number is unique ID of the project which the student is being assigned. And the project name is name of the project which the student is working on. So when I talk about non-primary key attributes, as per the example, we have a student name and project name which are functionally dependent on the part of the candidate key. Okay, so your student name can be determined by student ID, which makes the relationship partial, which means that you have 2 composite key, or you can say 2 candidate key, that is student ID and project number, where student name is dependent on only student ID. When I talk about project name, is dependent on the project number, so which makes the relation partial. So even you have 2 primary keys together, but your attributes are dependent on any one of the primary key, because if you divide this 2 table, you can get 2 different tables, that is your student table and project table. So the records themselves are also dependent on their primary key values. Next, we are moving to normalization types. So there are 4 types of normalization: first normal form, second normal form, third normal form, and BCNF. So we are in the year we are going to take an example and we are going to understand them each in detail. So when we talk about first normal form, for a table to be in the first normal form, it should have following 4 rules. The very first, it should have one, or you can say single, atomic value attributes or column. Second, the value stored in the column should be of same domain. Third, all the columns in the table should have unique names. Fourth, the order in which the data is stored doesn't matter. So that is your first normal form, wherein you will start with the normalization process and you have to make sure that this 4 conditions or 4 rules has to be fulfilled. So the first rule simply says that columns which you are defining should contain only single value. They cannot have multiple values. Second, it says that whatever is the domain values which you have defined in your column names, it should contain only those values. Third, all the columns in the table should have unique names. Okay, it cannot have duplicate names, repeated names, because now we are applying normalization. So if you have Any repeated values, any duplication, that has to be removed in the first normal form. And the last, the order in which the data is stored, it doesn't matter. So we are going to take an example here. So here we have a table, that is your student table, okay, which will have fields student roll number, student name, and the subject which they are studying. Okay, so here in this example, you can see that our table already satisfy the 3 rules out of the 4. Okay, the rules, you can say that our column names are unique, that you can see into your student name. We have stored the data in the order we want. We have stored the data, you can see it over it, and there is no intermixing, you can say, or there are no different type of data in the columns. But out of the 3 different students in our table, 2 have opted for more than one subject. In the example you can see over your screen, that is Akin and Backend have opted for 2 subjects, that is OS and CN, whereas Backend have opted for the subject that is C and C++. So here first normal form will not allow this. So we need to divide this table into more subtables so that the subject names will be referred into a single only. Okay, but as per the first normal form, each column must contain single value only. So to have this, we are going to divide the table into first normal form, where we will make sure that Akin will have 2 entries. The first subject will be operating system and the second subject will be CN. Similarly, for backend, we will have 2 entries with the roll number, that is 102, which will have C and C++. So now your table is ready for the first normal form, where the condition which was not fulfilled previously, that each column should contain single value, that has been done here with the help of the first normal form. Next, we have second normal form. So when I talk about second normal form, it has 2 conditions. The very first is that it should be in the first normal form. So what is your output for the step number 1 becomes the input for the step number 2. And it should not have partial dependency. So first we are going to understand that what do you mean by partial dependency. So whenever we talk about partial dependency, it occurs when your non-prime attributes is functionally dependent on your part of your candidate key. So here we have to we'll understand that what do you mean by functional dependency, what do you mean by partial dependency with the example. So here in this second normal form, as we know that this 2 condition has to be satisfied. So first understand what do you mean by dependency. So let us take an example of student table with the column student ID, name and registration number, branch and address. So in this table, student ID is a primary key and will uniquely identify every records in the table. Hence, we can use student ID to fetch any row of a data from this table. Even for the case when the student names are same, if we know the student ID, we can easily fetch the correct record, and hence we can say the primary key for the table is a column, or you can say a group of columns. If there is a composite key, will uniquely identify each records in the table. So if I ask about the branch number of student with student ID 10, I can get it. Similarly, if I ask for the name of the student with student ID 10 or 11, I will easily get it, because all you need is a student ID and every column is dependent over it. So using that student ID, you can fetch, and this dependency is called as functional dependency. Next, we are going to see what do you mean by partial dependency. So when I talk about partial dependency, we should understand it in a very simple way. Like if I talk about a student table, it will have a single column like student ID, which will be uniquely identify all the records. Okay. So if I think that at times they might not be true all the time, so we will extend our example and we will going to add one more column here, which will act as a primary key. So let's create another table, that is subject. We will have subject ID and subject name along with the fields as a primary key. So you can see in the over your screen, we have added one more table, that is your subject ID, which has field subject name along with the teacher which is teaching that subject. So now we have a student table with student information, and there is another table that is subject for storing the subject information. Now we are going to create another table that is called as score, which will store the marks which is obtained by the students in respective subject. We will also be saving the name of the teacher who is teaching that subject along with the marks. So here in the score table, we are saving the student ID to know which student marks are this, and the student ID to know that which subject the marks are for. So we can say that student ID plus subject ID can together form a candidate key for the table. So, but the primary key is nothing but your combination of student ID and subject ID. Because if I ask you to get the marks of the student with student ID 10, you can get the information of the table, because even if you don't know the subject, but with the help of the student ID details, you can know the which subject that student has opted for, and you can identify the records. So here in this, you can see that we have divided our table and we had made a score table differently, which has field score ID, subject ID, and marks. So now the dependency which was there initially has been removed. Next, we have partial dependency. Sorry. Next, we have your third normal form. Okay. So when I talk about third normal form, that refers to two conditions, that it is should be in your second normal form and it should have a transitive dependency. Okay, so we are going to take the same example where which was the output in second normal form, it will become the input in the third normal form. So we had our student table, we had our subject table, and we had our score table. So these three were something which has been got as an output into your last step, that is your second normal form. So here in this, we will add some more table to your score table. That is, we'll add an information that is your exam name. Okay, and we are going to add something that is called as total marks. So we are adding two columns into your score table, that is your exam name and the total marks. Okay, so we are going to understand here that what do you mean by transitive dependency. Like we have added exam name and total marks to our score table, it will save our more data, because if I talk about score table, it is a composite key which is having the attributes that is student ID and subject ID. So our new column, which is exam name, depends on both student and subject. For example, if you have a student of your mechanical engineering, okay, so their student will have workshop as an exam. But if I talk about a computer science student, it will not have those subject. It will have some practical exam. So depending on the type of the student entry, the exam type will also keep on changing. Okay, so here we need to identify, or we need to understand here that exam name is something which is dependent on student ID and the subject table. But we also have another column that is total marks. Okay, so does it is depending on a total score table? The answer is like it is depending more on exam name, because if your exam name and exam type is different, the score table will change. Okay, so here we are going to add one more table, that is new exam table, which will have field that is exam ID, exam name, and total marks. So here you can see our big table, which was there as a score table, is divided into another small table where we have the field that is exam table, and the exam ID is a foreign key in score table, and when it moves to exam table, it is a primary key. So now we have a new exam table which has field exam ID, exam name, and total marks. So here with this, we have actually removed the transitive dependency by making another table, that is your exam table, with the fields exam name and total marks. Last, we are moving to BCNF, that is Boyce-Codd normal form. So Boyce-Codd normal form is something which will have to satisfy these two conditions. First, the relation must be in third normal form. So whatever is your output will become the input in this step. And then there should be some functional dependency, that is X is functionally dependent on Y. That is X should be always the super key. So when I talk about super key, that is a key that will uniquely identify your all the records. So here in this table, we can see that we have a student table with field student ID, subject, and professor. So in this table, we can see that one student can enroll for multiple subjects. Like if I talk about student with student ID 101, so he has opted for the subjects like Java and C++. But for each subject, a professor is assigned to the subject, and there can be multiple professors teaching for one subject, like in case of Java, you can see over your screen. So the question here arises that what do you think should be the primary key? So in this table, that is your student ID, subject together form the primary key, because if they use student ID and subject, if we find out all the columns of the table, that can be uniquely identified. But the one more point we need to think here is like if there is one professor which is teaching only one subject, but one subject may have two different professors, hence there is a dependency between your subject and professor. So here, where the subject depends on professor name, this table satisfies the first normal form because all the values are atomic or single, column names are unique, and all the values which are stored in the particular column are belonging to same domain. This table also satisfies the second normal form because there is no partial dependency. Similarly, there is no transitive dependency. Hence, the table satisfies the third normal form as well. But this table doesn't satisfy the voice code normal form, that is BCNF. Why? In the above table, the student ID subject forms the primary key, in which the student column is the primary key attribute, but there is one more dependency. Okay, so your professor is dependent on subject while the subject is a prime attribute. So the professor is a non-prime attribute, which is not allowed in your BCNF. So to satisfy this BCNF, we need to make this relation or table decompose into two tables. So now we are going to decompose this table into two, that is your student table and professor table. Where the student will have student ID fields, there will be something called as PID, that is your professor ID, which is going to be foreign key, and it is going to be primary key into your professor table. So that was all your normal form. So you have to always remember that when I talk about normalization, at every step, we are breakdowning the tables into small, and we are removing the redundancy at each step. Okay. So with this, we have completed your chapter number 4. And the important topics here is your normalization along with its types. Okay. So that's it for the day. Thank you, everyone.